Hi, my name is Josh Leporati, and I'm a Principal Product Manager in the Microsoft 365 Customer Advocacy Group. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the tips and tricks for IT deployment of Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. Today, we're going to learn about a couple of things in the IT deployment area for Copilot. Now, first, we want to make sure that you have the right tools for leveraging and finding out the best adoption content to make this deployment seamless and pretty straightforward. Second, we're going to share some tips from other community members and other things that you can learn around enhancing your success stories and sharing those success stories to really drive your organizational deployment. And then finally, we want to make sure that you're connected with all the right resources and all the right communities so you can learn more and engage more. So let's see where some of these items fall in with our overall planning scope. When we think about leveraging and finding the tools, and we have a lot of things at your disposal. And that's what I want to try to help with today is making sure that you have the top tips and tricks for your deployment journey with Microsoft Copilot. Now, I broke these up into kind of three buckets, and you're going to see these terms along with some of our revised adoption materials. So you'll start seeing these terms, get ready, onboard and engage, and deliver impact more and more. And we want to make sure that we make progress in simplifying this journey and making sure that it's impactful for you. So first, let's start and talk about the get ready journey. Right? In this, we want to make sure that you have the right pages to land on and the most focused content so that you're ready for your Copilot deployment. Now, there's a couple of key things here. I'm going to focus on a site that we call Microsoft Adoption, and I'll showcase this later in the presentation, where we go and show where you can find the roll-up of all this information in one spot. Microsoft Adoption has a microsite for just Copilot. And on that microsite, you'll find things for different role segments, what's new and what's latest around that, and really the great and first site to go see all the catch-up content for Copilot. Now, this material spans IT, business user, a user engagement, and we want to make sure that you see the different contents by role so that you can go and find that specialty content. Now, today we're really talking about you and IT and that deployment journey and the tips and tricks there. So I'm going to focus in on the content that's specific for you. This content starts to dive into your technical readiness materials, right? You can go and find out what app versions you need to be on, maybe what you need to take in consideration for your networking requirements, or what's next for the best user experience in Copilot. When we start to think about being ready, there's a lot of things that you can prep in advance for Copilot, but we also don't want to make it too overwhelming. So in the next section, when we think about onboarding and engaging, right, what are the resources and what are the tools that are going to help you the most, both from a concise view of getting that quick deployment out and expanding and making sure that we covered all the bases. Now, there are some great tools, and in a bit, I'm going to show you a walkthrough of one of the best ones, which is a setup guide. It can be a self-service setup guide from our Fast Track Wizards. Now, this guide will walk you through the same type of content that you'll first go in the Get Ready section and be prepared with. So we want you to learn and be prepared with that content, and then move forward into that setup guide so that you already are armed with that information. Now, during the setup guide, you're going to see things like assignment of the licenses, any of the technical readiness materials that you need to know for prepping your organization to be ready with it, and then moving forward into user communication and user education for what's about to land with them. Now, we've had lots of experience with how organizations can best be prepared for an enablement of this type. Right, Copilot is brand new for us, for your end users and your organization users, and we want to make sure that you have the best experience with that during your deployment journey. So as we move into the final phase of delivering impact, there are a lot of things that we can look at during this journey that will help you understand the impact that your users are having with Copilot, and pivoting during any of that to make sure that you are experiencing or answering the right questions from your community, ensuring that you're accounting for any future changes, whether they be technical changes or adoption type changes. But you have an arm You have that knowledge. You can see what's happening inside of all these areas with this. So when we start thinking about this, at the bottom here, you've got a website, adoption.microsoft.com, whack Copilot. Throughout this, any of the experiences I talk about or I show, that website will be your key for getting access to that content and finding anything we're talking about today, right? That's the first part of where we want to land the simplicity of land there and you will find all of this great content. In a minute, I'm going to go jump into a website demo of the adoption site just to give you familiarity with what we're going to see on that page, where you can find the content, and where you would go from there. And again, remember, that's in our getting ready phase. That is the bucket where we're getting you ready. We're showing you what we've learned, what other customers have shared about their own journey. And then we're going to move into the fast track site for that setup guide and the onboarding and engage section. And then we're going to highlight at the end of this, again, that delivering impact part. Building that community, seeing what your users are sharing, whether it's feedback they've shared directly in product. By the way, great tip here. Did you know that you can see that feedback in your admin portal? Because you can, right? So as users send feedback to Microsoft on what they're experiencing and how they are using the product, you can also be engaged in that, right? You can go in there and see what your users are sharing back. So maybe you can be proactive in that case and say, hey, you know what? We see a lot of our internal users are sharing this theme. Well, let's go and address that theme for them. So maybe that'll reduce our own support calls and their own feedback, whether pro or negative, on what they're sharing with that. So let's look and see what's next. Again, adoption.microsoft.com/copilot. That is the site that if you walk away from my session, I want you to remember that because that's where we are highlighting all of this and it's such a wealth of information. So again, across this page, there are so many resources. You'll see the resources by roles. You'll see the latest product announcements and news with what's landed for Copilot, right? What has changed in Copilot? What's the latest thing you need to know about? You've been with us for this journey for a while now. You know that this is a fast journey, right? We are always taking user feedback into account, implementing that into the product, and rolling that out pretty quickly. It's a fast-paced change. Where do you need to go to find the latest and keep up to date with it, right? That's a huge tip. You'll see also links out from this Copilot microsite to our other Microsoft sites. So again, we're specific here a bit in Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, but you'll see other Copilot experiences off of this Copilot microsite. So you can go and experience and find out information about those areas too, because they've got the same type of microsites on Microsoft Adoption. Small and medium customers, small and medium business, enterprise, content that is made to fit the size of your organization. And then you'll see stuff like Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Viva, and much more. So I'm going to show now the actual website and just a little bit about the navigation and where to find some of that content. Awesome. So now we're going to look at our Copilot for Microsoft 365 microsite on Microsoft Adoption. Now, I get super excited about this site because it's our team, much more than just me. It's a whole team of folks that actually own and operate this site. But the beautiful thing, real quick, about Microsoft Adoption is across all of our solutions, you will see content here focused on adoption, IT enablement, right? All of the content that you need to dive deeper into that enablement phase will be on Microsoft Adoption. So we've had this site for a while. It has and spans multiple Microsoft 365 solutions and just Microsoft solutions all up. But what we've seen a lot of great success for too are microsites just like this. So this one is for Copilot for Microsoft 365. We give you a little bit of information about Copilot here, but here's where we get into the really great parts is we can start looking at the different phases. So, right, preparing for Copilot, learning how Copilot works, and joining the Copilot community. Our team is big on community. We love community. We support and sponsor a lot of community. So you'll see that reoccurring theme from the site because it's also something we deeply and passionately believe will help you during this IT journey, right? Finding tips and tricks from other folks that are in the same bucket that you are in around IT enablement, deployment of these services. There's a community for that, right? There's a community of folks that will share their best practices, lessons learned, and we're happy to be a part of that and encourage participation in that. So as I go through this site, here's what some of the key areas that you'll see. First one, these resources by role. So there's a lot of content that we have available for Copilot. Where we want to have you see that in one place is here. And if you notice, right, I've got an overview section, which is my general content that's going to be available for Copilot, but then I can look into the different roles. Now I'm going to look into IT professional. And here's what we've got for IT professional. You can see my content changed here, but right, how do I prepare for it? What are my Copilot requirements? Well, let me look at the usage reports or enabling users. And all of this will take you to those site-centric areas that deep dive into this content. So if I want to see the Copilot requirements, right, I would click on Copilot requirements and I'd be taken to our Learn article that details in depth all the requirements needed for enabling Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. Now, we want to source all this from one spot so that you've got that right easy single spot to go from. As I scroll down, I can see what's new in Copilot. As we have more information and news that launches, you'll see this update dynamically. Typically, about every 2 weeks, sometimes even sooner than that, you'll see new information roll into the site and become available here. As I continue down, we'll see about exploring what's possible. So I can go and see capabilities of Copilot, anything around AI training or AI information that maybe is new to me or the organization, some great launching points to discover more. You'll notice too that there's lots of user enablement and user education material out here as well. So during your IT deployment journey, right, one of the key pieces is how do we help educate and enable our users to go and learn this and adopt it well. So you'll see a lot of that also inside of these resources. If I switch here to Adoption Manager, which is where we're thinking about our user enablement piece, we'll see things like our full adoption kit or the checklists that we have put available so that you can quickly see, hey, here are the top things that I need to think about for enabling Copilot. Over time, we're continuing to iterate on these and improve the designs. So again, come here, you'll always find the latest and greatest, and you'll see any changes that we have. Lots of great material that we've had asked for from the community. So another great reason to be a part of the community. Things like onboarding kits. So from here, you can get our user onboarding kit. It will actually have like a 7-week journey and showcase different tips and tricks inside of different Copilot applications so that you can educate your users, create a campaign around that, either leverage some of our best practices for creating campaigns and sending that out, leverage Microsoft 365 tools that maybe you already have access to, like the Viva Suite, and doing an Amplify campaign to showcase that. Or scale it back, send some emails out about it, engage in a Teams community. Lots of great information that we also have about building out the community. And you'll hear me talk about that here in a bit back in the slides, but we're passionate about helping you discover how to build your own communities in your organization, because that's really where you start to see the power of finding your success stories, finding those areas from your IT enablement that will go and take Copilot to the next phase. That's what we get excited and passionate for, to see you all discover in your organizations. So a few other things off of this site real quick, if I continue scrolling. Seeing and finding prompting skills. As you start to experience Copilot, you'll see the value and the importance of good prompting. So we've got guides available for that. And again, lots of information as we continue down. This is a rich site full of this content. So, right, I can still see Copilot in my favorite apps. We're getting a bit out of the IT deployment and now into more of the onboarding and into the actual adoption of these products. But again, a single site to find all of these experiences. If I go back up to the top real quick, you can see I've got a couple of other tabs across here that I could explore. So pilot communities or future events like the one you're attending today, I could go to community events and find future events. Copilot on mobile experiences, my prompt library. Again, this site is meant to be that single source for you to come to, find your IT specific deployment assistant material, but then span across all of these other roles so that as you deploy, as you enable your organization for Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, help your users, point them here, and they can find other unique resources to continue help and drive that adoption journey. So we just saw the Microsoft adoption site, the specific Copilot microsite to find all of your IT deployment information, any guides that you may need for that, finding the technical requirements, and expanding to other roles that you will need to expand to once we get down this deployment journey. So again, and if you take anything away from this session, adoption.microsoft.com, whack Copilot. That is where you will find all of this information, and we'll always keep that up to date. Now, I want to move into thinking about what is another great tip and trick and really resource here for your deployment journey. This is a resource from our fast track team that is called the Microsoft Copilot Setup Guide. And so what you're going to see here, and you'll see a little animated wizard that's showing this, is you've got access in your environment to go through the setup guide. And there's a couple of key things that's going to happen with the setup guide, right? We're going to show you the readiness material. When you remember back from the earlier in this presentation, we had that get ready section, right? That's all of the content that we're going to find in that. So you're going to see links back into the Microsoft adoption site. You're going to see that technical depth readiness around, hey, what are my Copilot requirements? All in a simplified roll-up list so that you can see those requirements. Now, second, we're going to move into license assignment. And there's a few things that I want to talk about around license assignment. Now, one of the biggest things that we see for success is when we expand that license assignment out to a larger percentage of the organization, right? Because we're finding and showcasing users in different business segments abilities to discover and help us as the organization discover where Copilot really integrates and excels at this AI transformation. So we're going to find use cases in IT, but we're also going to find use cases in our other organizational departments that can really help showcase and help others learn. And by expanding that group, we're also expanding our potential footprint for that active community that we also want to encourage building out. So building a champion community and having those key resources, those are your people, right? Your resources, your people to help accelerate that adoption and help accelerate good ideas around how to leverage Copilot in your organization. So think about that when we're thinking about that license assignment portion, right? Who are my users that are going to really help me engage and accelerate? And those may be surprising users, right? They're going to be from different mixes in the organization. So kind of keep that broad, keep it as large as we can for the initial rollout. We want to keep that for the initial rollout too. After that, we then move into our announcement channels. So we've got an announcement that you can send out to these users. In the email announcement, you can customize this, but it's got a lot of great content around, hey, here's what you're about to experience. Here's what you're about to see with Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. So it'll show them some tips and tricks around, here's some great things in Outlook, maybe here's some great things in Word or Teams, right? To highlight what they can do in this journey they're about to take on. And then we finish it. We hit finish, we complete the deployment, and we can start rolling out very quickly to our users. So we want to make sure, again, we're looking at these technical requirements. That readiness page on this setup guide will show you all those to be prepared for and to think through. Then we're going to move into that licensing side. We're expanding that to be a little bit more broad, right? We want to capture as much of the organization as we can, move into the email announcement so that we can prepare and share with our users what's about to happen. And then let's move into the AI transformation moment, right? Let's encourage, let's help them get on board it. And during the way, we're going to find things, right? That's where we want you to leverage the community. That's where we want you to connect back in so that you can hear from others. You can hear from us about maybe what those challenges you're facing, how to overcome them, maybe some unique ways to look at it, or share your own experiences back. We want to hear your experiences because it helps others. We want to help anyone we can discover how to better get deployed and get this adoption motion rolling. So if there's three things that I can leave as next steps, the first one is that Copilot resource site on Microsoft Adoption. I'll say it one more time. I'm sure I'm going to get chats. I'm in the chat around, what the site is, but adoption.microsoft.com, what Copilot, make us so happy. That's the one thing you take away from this. That's where you can go and find everything we've talked about today and find even more tips and tricks to help your deployment journey in IT. Secondly, that fast track adoption page that we have on Microsoft Adoption, it goes into not only the experience I just showed for Copilot setup, but there's lots of other guides just like that for other product experiences. Now, today we're talking about Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, so that's why I highlighted that one. But it's great to know and great to share that Fast Track has other guides available that can help you through other deployment journeys. And then last, but certainly not least, join the community, right? You're part of this call series and this technical accelerator session today. You found this through our community. Make sure you've joined it. Make sure that you're a part of it. Comment out in the discussion board. Leave us a note on how you've enjoyed these sessions. What can we do in the future to make these even more engaging for you? And please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other presenters here in the community. We're excited to hear from you and excited to hear about your AI transformation that you're taking with Microsoft Copilot. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the session, and have a great rest of the Tech Accelerator event.